All right, what's up, everyone? This is Daniel, sir. This is a little bit of a longer video for me here. Tuesday evening, the end of September, September 30th. So I finished reading Vice President Harris's book, and it's pretty tough. I think it's a pretty weak book overall. And there's this part at the end. So this is on page, if you get the hardcover, page 63. And I'm just going to read this whole paragraph to you here. This is one of her last ones. So she's talking about Pete Buttigieg and why he would be a great candidate to be her vice president. She says, "He would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man. But we were already asking a lot of America to accept a woman, a black woman married to a Jewish man. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk." It's frustrating because she is discriminating against him. He's the most qualified candidate, and he doesn't get it because of his sexual orientation. And she goes with, I guess, the number 2 guy, Tim Walz. And it's just frustrating that she seems so blind to this. And, it doesn't matter why you discriminate against somebody. Every time that it's happened in every country, it's because it benefits the person doing it. She thought that it would benefit her more to not take Buttigieg and take the number 2 candidate instead of the number 1 candidate, not because Walz was better. In fact, she says that Mayor Pete was better. It's because it was to her benefit to discriminate against Mr. Buttigieg and promote Mr. Walz into the vice president slot. And that's a big frustrating part to me of why the Democratic Party is struggling so much. And it's, painful that someone as intelligent as her, as experienced as her, has this sort of thinking and this sort of decision making and has these words going around in her head that, iterated millions of times over the course of her campaign and her career, are what led to this massive failure and that I think played a major role in why President Trump won. And I don't think that this type of thinking is just turned off and on. I think it infects all the actions, all the hiring, the staffing, promoting, firing people, what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, and this whole cognitive dissonance that the Democratic Party is saying that trying to be the party that's against discrimination, but it's the leadership at the very top engages in discrimination. And Mr. Biden was no better. He, at the South Carolina debate, right before the South Carolina primary, he said that he was going to only evaluate women for vice president. He wasn't even going to consider men. So he gets rid of all of them because of his, he wanted to discriminate against men. Then he's consistently pressured to have it be a black woman and not anybody else. And she's half Indian, half black. She doesn't really even identify as that. And this also, she doesn't capitalize white, but she does black, which is also a form of language discrimination. And this whole paragraph, I've been very frustrated with her, kind of encapsulates the whole reason of why, what's wrong with the Democratic Party. And they, all this stuff, it's very frustrating. And identity politics and your birth traits, which is like your race, your sex, your, for some it's your religion, your orientation, sexual orientation, all these different things are the determining factors for, and not things like ability, perseverance, dedication, being durable, emotionally resilient, all these different things that are really good qualities that people can develop over time. And so it's just very frustrating. And I think that's what's wrong with our party. And let me know down below what you think. I do think she discriminated against him. And I think the cognitive dissonance of why she's at an award ceremony getting awards for the job that she did, even though she lost. And this to produce a woman who's as smart as she is and has had access to the resources that she is that still thinks like this is pretty difficult. And I think it kind of speaks poorly of the entire Democratic Party and our selection process and our culture. And so I'm a Democrat. I'm in California. I'm going to be campaigning for governor. We'll see how far I can go. But this type of stuff, we need to do better. We need to get back to being, being stoic about stuff and just saying we are not going to discriminate, even if it costs us. We're going to be the party that does not support discrimination. We do it as little as possible, and we're always checking to try and do better. So anyways, let me know what you think below. Thanks.